Alright, so we're going to be starting from lesson one, which is the project planning process overview. We're going to continue. The last time I tried to introduce the concept of project charter, so we're going to go through the process of planning a project, the whole process. So, what is project planning? It is a crucial phase in the life cycle of any project, laying the foundation for its successful execution. This process involves a systematic approach to defining project objectives, scope, timeline, budget, and resources. So, by thoroughly planning every aspect of the project, organizations can mitigate risk, allocate resources effectively, and then also ensure that project goals are achieved on time and within the set budget. So, what are the key steps in project planning? The first step is to define project goals and objectives, clearly articulate the desired outcome and objectives of the project. What is the project intended to achieve? What specific goals need to be accomplished? Identify stakeholders and roles. Identify all individuals or groups who will be impacted or have a vested interest in the project. If you look at the project charter I sent in the last class or the last time for the group project, you will see a copy of the project charter. I think it allows you to understand a couple of most of the things I'm talking about. So you can refer to that document to understand these things. Now, conduct feasibility study. Assess the feasibility of a project by evaluating factors such as technical, economic, operational, and legal considerations. Determine if the project is viable and aligned with organization goals. Develop a project charter. I'm going to leave this for you to, you know, think of because I've explained this in the other lesson. Create project management plan. So you have to develop a comprehensive project management plan that outlines how the project will be executed, monitored, and controlled. This plan should include key elements such as scope management, schedule management, cost management, quality management, risk management, communication management, and stakeholder management. The next step is to define scope and deliverables. Clearly define the project scope, including all deliverables and requirements. So ensure that stakeholders have a shared understanding of what will be included and excluded from the project. Estimate the resources and the budget. Think of everything involved to make the project a success. Now develop a schedule. You have to develop a project schedule that outlines the sequence of activities, milestones, and deadlines. So identify critical path activities and dependencies to ensure the project stays on track. Then identify risk and mitigation strategies. Of course, I've spoken about that before. Then communicate and obtain approval. As a project manager, if the project is not approved by the major stakeholders, you're probably wasting your time. So you have to communicate the project plan to stakeholders and obtain their feedback and approval. Then ensure that everyone is aligned with the project objectives and understand their roles and responsibilities. So we'll move on to lesson two. The second aspect of today's lesson is going to be about work breakdown structure. Now, I need you to bear in mind that all these are just introductions to this concept. Further research is up to you to read more about this and learn about them. But my goal is to make sure that you're introduced to all these concepts as project managers and learning so that you're not sidelined by what is involved. So now the work breakdown structure is a hierarchical decomposition of the project scope into smaller, more manageable work package. So it serves as a roadmap for organizing and refining the project work. This is where you break down the full project scope to small parts. So let's say you have to run 5 miles, you break it down to half a mile, 1 mile, 1.5 miles. You break it down to small bits. That way, it's manageable to put the project together. So this structure it provides a structured framework for planning, scheduling, and tracking project activities, which enables project teams to effectively manage resources, monitor progress, and ensure the project objectives are met. So the key steps in WBS creation is identify major deliverables. So what are the deliverables? Start by identifying the major deliverables or outcome of the project. So these are the tangible results or products that the project is intended to produce. So by the end of the project timeline, what is expected? What are you delivering to the stakeholders? Maybe you're delivering a concluded product, you're delivering a project report that details how a project was carried out. Let's say your company is organizing a campaign, a secondary school campaign outreach or project, let's say a malaria project. At the end of the day, you need to know what you're delivering to the stakeholders and what each stakeholder gets at the end of the project timeline. Decompose deliverables into sub-deliverables. So if the project managers, the stakeholders are expecting a report, maybe some other stakeholder is expecting a breakdown of how finances was spent, the financial report. Another stakeholder is interested in the product per se. It depends on what each stakeholder needs. So when you figured out the deliverables, you break it down to the sub-deliverables. Then you define the work package. So you define the work packages at the lowest level of the of the WBS hierarchy. So each work package should be well defined, measurable, and assigned to a specific individual or team. So you have to understand who is doing what and then break it down and assign it to different people invested or participating in that project or product development. Then organize work packages hierarchically in an orderly manner. So you organize the work package in a structure, with the main deliverables at the top and the sub deliverables and work packages at the lower part. So as a project manager, you're going to be creating a lot of graphics. You're going to be creating a lot of graphs and diagrams to properly illustrate the breakdown of projects, for the stakeholders. Then you assign identification codes. So assign identification codes to each work package to facilitate tracking and reference. But this code typically follows a hierarchical numbering scheme. So you have number one, number two, number three, A1, A2, A3, A54, thereabouts. But you assign codes to each work package so that you can easily track what has been done. Then you validate the structure with the key stakeholders to ensure that all the project deliverables and the work packages are, they are all aligned with the project objective. What was the goal of the project? What did the project key stakeholders expect will happen when the project is executed? Maybe they want it's in line with the company's Go Green campaign. So, an example would be a company is focused on highlighting education in a particular area or highlighting education in Africa. It's your goal to make sure that that project and the work package is in line with the general project objective. So you guys don't lose track of what you're doing. You just make sure that everything is still in line with what you planned and how you planned it. So it's just all about okay, how how did everybody work in such a way that still aligned with project objectives? So when you validated, of course, you review, you try to identify if there's anything missing. Did you guys forget something? Or did you add elements to tasks? So it's up to you to make revisions as necessary and then make sure that everything that is adjusted still fits the project objectives. Then we move to maintain and update. Maintaining and updating the structure throughout the project life cycle. You update it as new information becomes available. So as people, different project as assignees complete different parts of the task. It is your job as a project manager to update the structure and make sure that it is also that whenever a key stakeholder that has access to the document, they can properly know, okay, this is the stage everybody is in without you having to explain that, okay, it has already been done, but you have not yet updated it. It has to be something that is done maybe every week, every Monday, every Friday, or every day. You have to have an update system Then activity sequencing and network diagram. That's the other thing we're going to be looking at. Now, this course is very, very practical. I have attached a link to this to the end of the notes to show you more about the diagram. I'll be attaching a lot more for further study, but you need to read more about this because this lesson is something that is very comprehensive, and this lesson note is not as comprehensive as need be. But of course, I'll be sharing materials to help you fill up knowledge gaps. So, what is activity sequencing and network diagrams? Activity sequencing involves determining the order in which project activities should be performed to achieve project objectives. So it is a very important step in project planning as it helps identify dependencies between activities, allocate resources, and establish a realistic project schedule. But it is with activity sequencing you will know what comes before what, and the expectations are aligned with what is very realistic. So network diagrams such as the precedence diagramming method or the arrow diagramming method are commonly used to visualize activity sequencing. So what are the key steps in activity sequencing? Number one, you have to identify the project activities. So you start by identifying all the tasks or all the activities that are required to complete the project. So these activities should be specific, measurable, and directly related to achieving project objectives. So you want to define activity dependencies, and these dependencies can be of four types. Number one, finish to start, which is activity B cannot be started until activity A finishes. Start to start. Activity B cannot start until activity A starts. Finish to finish. Activity B cannot finish until activity A finishes. And then start to finish. Activity B cannot finish until activity A starts. So these are the dependencies. You need to know what comes before what and what needs to be finished or what needs to be started before the next um, phase. Then after identifying the dependencies, you go ahead to create the network graphics. Um, the graphics looks something like this. It looks something like this. Activity on the node. Precedence diagramming method is this. So you start with clear sites, breaks. So the two things can be happening at the same time here. So while the site is being cleared, trenches are being dug, you lay the foundation. Then the bricks are also prepared. You prepare the bricks, you prepare cement. Then after laying foundation, everything comes down here. Then you lay the bricks and then you end. This is precedence diagramming method. Then the next method is the next method is the arrow diagramming method. It's almost the same thing, but the main difference is this is that in a precedence diagramming method, activities are represented as nodes and the dependencies are shown as arrows between nodes, just like I just showed you. This method emphasizes the relationship between activities and allows for more flexibility. But in an arrow diagramming method, activities are represented as nodes and dependencies are shown as arrows with activity duration. So this method emphasizes the sequence of activities and helps identify the critical path. So which one is the longest sequence of dependent activities that determines the shortest project duration. So of course I will send the link. The first one is for precedence diagramming. I'll send the one for arrow. Now the next stage is to establish critical path. So identify the critical path in the network diagram. The critical path is the longest sequence of dependent activities that determines the shortest project duration. So activities on the critical path have zero float, meaning any delay in these activities will delay the project completion date. So understanding the critical path helps project managers prioritize activities, allocate resources effectively, and manage project schedule risk. Then now optimize schedule. When all the network diagram has been established, you need to analyze it and identify opportunities to optimize the schedule. Now this may involve adjusting activity durations, resequencing activities, or allocating additional resources to critical path activities. So one major thing for you as a project manager is to make sure that you're always on the ground performing what is called process improvement. Your goal is to always improve what exists, the structure that has been set to make sure that everybody sticks to the project schedule set. And today, everything about today's lesson is still focused on project planning. And the next lesson, I believe, we'll go further and learn more.